A while ago, Schumann Audio reached out to me asking if I would be interested in reviewing their ladder back R2R preamp. Now the word R2R caught my attention because we all know about R2R DACs, but how many of us have heard of R2R preamp? Is it marketing? Is it real? I don't know if the R2R carries the same meaning when used in a DAC and in a preamp. And sadly, I don't have the time to research it. If you do know, please put it in the comments. It definitely sounds intriguing. Schumann Audio has also sent me the ladder Schumann R2R DAC. That is an extremely musical DAC. Now, only if they have an R2R power amp, then that would complete my R2R collection. So, two things were going through my head when I agreed to review the preamp. First, can it dethrone the famous Freya Plus to preamp? By chance, my audio buddy, Mr. Kanta, just bought a Freya Plus, so I can put them in a boxing match. Did you know my Freya, the original video, the original Freya, had over 200,000 views? At the time, I called it the best thing since sliced bread, and everyone and their cat should rush out to buy one. I always wonder if Shit knows about that video because I never got an email from them. Thomas, thanks for making us millions. Can we buy you a cup of coffee? Second, unlike a few years ago, DACs today with volume control are so good that I wonder if we still need a preamp. Can we simply not plug a DAC directly into a power amp? Obviously, if we have a turntable or different sources, like a CD player, then yes, we would need a preamp. But if we don't, technically we don't need a preamp. Now, of course, the answer would depend on the DAC you have, because not all DACs are the same when it comes to using it as a preamp. However, it was still something I was really curious about. So the second I power up the ladder Bach Preamp, maybe I'll call it Bach from now on, I was pleasantly surprised and I was telling myself, oh shit Freya, you might have finally met your match. Maybe. Alright my audio buddies, let's talk about the R2R ladder Bach Preamp today. Now before we begin, a big thank you to Schumann Audio for sending me this unit. They sent me 4 items for review, and all of them are good, worthy to talk about. The Gustard A26, the Gustard R26, the ladder Schumann R2R DAC, and this preamp. Either they're really lucky and chose good sounding gear to send me, or they listened to everything before they send me. I will put a non-affiliated link in the description, as well as the first comment. You will be indirectly supporting this channel if you buy from them because they will continue to send me more stuff to review. A win-win-win for all of us. So what does R2R structure, single crystal copper transformer, and fully DC coupled signal path circuit mean? No idea. But it does sound geeky and impressive. Between you and me, I tend to ignore what is written on websites. Man, you can put power by dilithium crystals and I would not care. Now, if you're curious, just email them. What I do know, it has 2 XLR input, 1 RCA input, 1 XLR output, and 1 RCA output. It has a front display that reminds me of an alarm clock from the 80s. I personally like it. It has a very simple design, no fancy menu, just power, volume, source, and mute. The CNC metal casing is excellent. Interestingly, it did not come with a remote, which in my opinion is a crime for 2023. A cheesy 80s looking display I can forgive. But no remote? What? Do you mean I have to get my lazy ass off the couch, walk to the preamp, in the process lose weight just to change the volume? Unacceptable. So I emailed Schumann Audio and guess what? Next thing you know, I received this fancy looking remote and it works. This is a high quality metal remote that you can use for self-defense. Strangely, I cannot find a remote on Schuman's website. They either forgot to put it up for sale, or they begged Ladder to custom make me one so I can stop complaining. The unit costs $8.99 USD, including free shipping. Let's assume the remote is $100 because, man, it's heavy. If you want one, that's still less than $1,000 for a seriously good preamp. So, what should you expect with this preamp? The usual audiophile jargon, like all modern gear. It is transparent, clear, fast, detailed, and neutral. But you know what? The Topping Pre-90, which is another preamp I review, I said exactly the same thing. What makes this preamp much more to my taste? Most of $1,000 gear I've listened to that gravitates towards maximum clarity tends to have a bit of glare. This one has minimal. Better than 95% of the affordable gear I've listened to, and that was a pleasant surprise the first second I powered it up. Next, I don't know if it has anything to do with R2R, but I was doing some serious A/B tests and I heard some R2R characteristics. So what did I do? I used the LSA Warp 1 Class D amp and the Gustard R26 DAC with and without the Bach Preamp. To answer the first question I was asking myself today, DAC that has a volume control, do I still need a preamp? In this specific case, okay, the Gustard R26 plugged directly into the Warp 1 power amp already sounds fantastic. If you add the latter Bach preamp, there is only a small change. When I said I heard similar characteristic to an R2R DAC, what I meant is it shaves off the sharp edges in the treble area a little bit, okay? Not much, but enough for me to catch it, and it reminded me of how R2R DAC also shaves off slightly the sharp edges. Still very clean, clear, but relative to plugging in the Gustard R26 directly, it is just a bit smoother. That slight difference can be just enough for you to enjoy your bright sounding speaker a little bit more. Next, with the Bach preamp plugged in, I noticed the bass is a bit more focused, not as fat and big, but more narrow. Now, all this is very minor, okay? Finally, the soundstage is just a bit bigger. So if you're looking for a preamp that changes the sound as little as possible, then the latter Bach should be on top of your list. It's funny if you think about it, right? We all want gear that's transparent, get out of the way, don't color the sound. And when we get something like that, we're like, is it in my system or not? Now, I'm not saying it does not change or improve the sound, but it took me a few minutes to figure out the differences. While the shit Freya, man, a few seconds to tell the differences. Now, at the end of this video, I will share with you why I think you still need a good preamp like the Bach. So what about comparing to the Freya Plus in tube mode? Okay, I have to compare in tube mode, else the latter Bach is just better overall, period. I'm not even bothered going to compare with the other non-tube mode. Now, I always said if we compare two preamps, one with tubes and one without, in the same price range, the one with tubes generally has an advantage in the soundstage. With the Freya Plus, you know for sure it is in your system because it changes the soundstage significantly. So the Freya Plus soundstage is wider, there's more air, and more of that 3D feel in the soundstage. Oh, by the way, I was not using stock tubes. Mr. Cantor did his magic with tube matching, tube rolling, so I probably am listening to the Freya Plus at its peak. Now, the Freya was actually sharper, but very pleasant to listen to. And although the Freya Plus has a wider soundstage, it does not beat the Bach completely because the Bach has a more solid center image. The soundstage is more anchored and background is darker, more precise and pinpoint. I would say Freya is more pleasant to listen to because of the airy soundstage and the tube second harmonics, while the Bach is more audiophile, more accurate, more stable. With tubes at this price, the airiness does give that slight, okay, haziness in the soundstage. Another way to describe the differences with the Freya Plus, the singer just gained X-Men power and levitated off the floor, floating in that airy soundstage. While the latter Bach, the singer stands firmly on the ground. Not a bad thing, just the way it is. You will hear a bigger change in the sound with the Freya, while the Bach is meant to be transparent, so it will change less the overall presentation. So in my humble opinion, if you're looking for a solid state preamp, get the latter Bach. If you're looking for a tube preamp, get the Freya Plus. And please put in the comments, what is your experience with preamp? Do you need one? If you never had a preamp, do you want one? Okay, so let me end the video here with a story. Now, before that, some of you might be wondering, if I only hear a small difference between the preamp with the Gustard DAC and LSA Word 1, then what is the point of me spending $1,000 on a preamp? Well, the problem is that it's not true in all cases. In some cases, the difference is huge. So my story. I have two Mcintosh D150 DAC in my life. The first one I sold a few years ago, MSRP was about $4,000. Okay, a D150 Mcintosh DAC, you can use it as a preamp because it has a volume control. And I remember the day I sold that, the first one, I had it plugged directly to the Moon W5.3 power amp without a preamp. And guess what? It just did not sound good. And I know these two gear really well. They do sound good, but just without a preamp, it sounded like garbage. I thought it was just the stress of someone about to show up, and it's just me. Guess what? The buyer showed up, and he was able to tell right away the combo does not sound good. Fortunately, the buyer was an audiophile, and he understood that there's a need for a preamp, so he still bought the DAC. And I remember someone explained that to me once. Okay, it has something to do with the impedance differences between the power amp and whatever is plugged into it, either a preamp or a DAC. The impedance needs to be 10 times different. In the case of a bad match without a preamp, you will feel like something is off. It is just not as fluid. So the moral of the story, a preamp can significantly improve the sound of your system, because if you still have your DAC connected directly to your amp, you might not be getting the most fluid performance out of your system. In my story, I had two hi-fi gear that is $4,000 each, and it was not a good match. Remember, synergy is the key to a good sounding system. A preamp might elevate your system to the next level. If you get a bad preamp, it will downgrade it. Assuming you don't have like $7,000 DAC, $10,000 power amps, the Bach Preamp should be on your addition list, especially if you don't want to color the sound. Now, in some sense, I'm really happy that the performance of the preamp today has improved to the level where the gap between high-end and affordable gear has narrowed even further. My Mcintosh C2300 preamp, which is about 6 times more expensive, is not even 3 times better. If I were to get a solid-state preamp, and I love a very clean presentation with a slight trim to the sharp edges in the treble area, ladder back is definitely my top 3 recommendation. So what about the 2 others? I'm still looking. All right, till next time.